Hey guys, tonight we're stepping barefoot into the warm, muddy chaos of monsoon season in ancient India. The sky rumbles like a sleepy bullfrog. The rain hits your shoulders in big fat droplets and puddles are forming faster than your sandals can dry. You're soaked within minutes, hair plastered tunic, heavy sandals squelching. Welcome to one of the oldest and most relentless weather patterns on Earth. You squint through the downpour and spot a rickety wooden structure with banana leaves as makeshift shelter. Not ideal, but it beats drowning upright. You duck inside just as a bolt of lightning crackles across the horizon, followed by a half-hearted grunt of thunder. Somewhere nearby, a cow complains, a very wet cow. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and what time it is for you in the comments. I always love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you sit there listening to the drumming rain and watching the slow flood build in the streets, a figure appears. He's balancing a strange object overhead, a tangle of sticks and leaves shaped into a kind of dome. Primitive, but you get the point. It's an umbrella. Or at least the very beginning of one. Long before the stiff black umbrellas your grandmother clutched on windy days, ancient India was already wrestling with the same issue. How do you stop water falling from the sky from absolutely ruining your day? The earliest solutions were pretty basic. Broad palm leaves often tied together or stitched with thin vines then mounted on wooden rods. These weren't umbrellas you'd twirl playfully or stuff into a purse. They were heavy awkward and required a servant or very patient friend to hold above your head. But hey, if you were a noble or a Brahmin with clout, you didn't carry your own shade anyway. Rain protection wasn't even their first use. Back then, the real enemy was the sun. The Indian subcontinent, especially in the northern plains and southern coasts, has long been scorched by relentless sun. The early umbrella called chaitra in Sanskrit was a symbol of royalty, not rain. If you had shade, you had status. Historians still argue whether these ancient devices were independently developed in India or borrowed and adapted from early Egyptian or Chinese shade structures. It's hard to tell. Palm leaf decays quickly, and while we've got references in literature and artwork, actual specimens are rare. Still, there's enough to suggest that as early as 1100 BCE, Indian communities were fashioning handheld shelter from both heat and storms. You spot a group of children huddled under a giant banana leaf, giggling as the rain rolls off their makeshift canopy. And maybe you smile because even in the 21st century, that instinct hasn't changed. See water. Seek cover, preferably one that doesn't involve soggy socks. One thing's for sure, no one is walking around with a button-operated, spring-loaded, color-changing umbrella just yet. What you're seeing is survival, not style. And yet there's something charming about it, the way practicality meets a kind of quiet, unpretentious craftsmanship. A passing merchant offers you a palm frond model for 3 cowries. It leaks a little. Okay, a lot, but you buy it anyway. Because in this long, slow story of umbrellas in India, you've just taken your first step. Soggy but curious. You squint upward from beneath your leaky palm frond umbrella, and through the misty curtain of rain, a procession glides into view. These aren't just any passers-by, they're nobles clearly riding in ornate palanquins, dressed in silks that gleam even in the gloom. And above them, fluttering like leaves caught in the wind, are enormous parasols, canopies of stitched palm leaves dyed in deep indigo and turmeric yellow. Each umbrella is larger than the man holding it with bamboo spokes, and stitched leather straps holding the whole contraption together. They don't just block the rain, they announce the importance of the person beneath them. You on the muddy roadside, soaked and slightly moldy, feel the difference acutely. In this ancient world, the chhatra isn't just functional, it's symbolic. Literally. It appears carved above kings on temple walls, held by divine attendants in paintings, even perched atop stupas like the famous one at Sanchi. That round shape you see crowning the monument, that's an umbrella, only now it guards the relics of the Buddha himself. You trudge after the procession, your own soggy version of the chhatra trailing water down your back, and watch as they disappear through a sandstone gateway. In many parts of ancient India, umbrella holders were themselves of a certain caste servants, whose role wasn't just manual but ceremonial. If you were walking under one, it meant something. Protection from the heavens, yes, but also elevation almost divine. Historians still debate just how much the umbrella's association with divinity came from local innovation or outside influence. Some trace parallels to Mesopotamian or Assyrian royal parasols, but Indian use seemed uniquely intertwined with religious ritual. Shade wasn't just comfort, it was purity. As you pass a nearby shrine, a quiet monk waves you over. He's fashioning an umbrella not for himself, but for the stone deity at the altar. This one's tiny, made from folded lotus petals and bamboo. It will wither by sunset, but for the moment the god is shaded. You're struck by the sheer range of umbrella uses, not just protection from sun or rain, but as offering symbols of merit and regal status. In fact, in some Buddhist traditions, donating a ceremonial umbrella was seen as one of the highest offerings. Shade, after all, was a luxury. Nearby, a young boy wrestles with a miniature umbrella of his own, a child-sized version made from stitched banana leaves. It's flimsier than yours, but he seems proud of it. He's walking in slow, exaggerated steps, mimicking the nobles you saw earlier. You realize he's not just playing, he's imagining a different life. In many ways, umbrellas were early performance props tools, not just of survival, but of aspiration. They said, "I'm not just here, I belong." And so, as the monsoon clouds churn overhead, and your leaf umbrella sags a little more with each droplet, you begin to understand in India, even a piece of stitched palm can mean dignity. Even the act of raising an umbrella could lift someone higher. You hear a faint drumbeat in the distance, another procession perhaps. And with your patchy shelter in hand, you continue walking. The rain continues, but now you walk with just a little more pride. You follow a narrow path down into a shaded grove where the air smells of wet earth and smoke. A low hut waits for you there, walls woven from bamboo roof thatched with coconut palm. Inside, a man is humming to himself, while crouched over a small fire, carefully softening thin strips of bamboo. He waves you and gestures to the corner, and there it is, the skeleton of a real umbrella. Not one of those ceremonial canopies held aloft by someone else, but a collapsible umbrella crafted to fold bend move. It's crude, sure, no springs, no buttons, but you can already see the future peeking out from its frame. This is the part of the story that rarely makes it into textbooks. Somewhere between the grand parasols of kings and the plastic umbrellas that poke you in the eye today, there were people like this craftsman, inventing quiet revolutions with fire string and patience. The bamboo strips are the ribs softened with steam and bent into arc shapes, then reinforced with fine twine made from banana fiber. The canopy dyed cotton, waterproofed with a mix of natural oils and tree sap. It smells like warm leaves and rainy mornings. He hands you one gently, like it might snap in your grasp. You open it slowly, feeling each rib flex and catch into place. No clicks, no drama. Just the hush of cloth stretching into a dome above your head. This isn't the first collapsible umbrella in India, but it's one of many that emerged from the hands of tinkers and toolmakers across the subcontinent. While grand palaces showcased ornamented umbrellas with gems and gold villages, birthed something more practical umbrellas that folded and followed you. Historians still argue whether the collapsible umbrella was first invented in India or imported from China and then improved locally. Some evidence suggests a back-and-forth exchange via the Silk Road. Others believe Indian innovators were already using collapsible fans and awnings, so adapting that knowledge to umbrellas was inevitable. Either way, the result was elegant in its simplicity. You sit beside the artisan and watch as he makes another. His fingers move with the casual speed of someone who has done this 1,000 times. You wonder how many generations have passed down this knowledge, father to son, or perhaps mother to daughter, since umbrella making wasn't always gendered labor here. A rooster struts past the open door. Rain plinks against the canopy over your head. You test the weight of the umbrella. It's light but strong. The ribs creak softly like an old wicker chair. Later, he offers to show you the dyeing vats where crushed turmeric indigo and iron-rich mud become color. He jokes that even an umbrella should dress well if it wants to be taken seriously. You smile, then remember all the floral and geometric patterns you've seen painted across village umbrellas. Functional, yes, but never drab. As you rise to leave, he folds your umbrella down with a twist and a tug. It becomes a compact, tidy cylinder you can tuck under your arm. You thank him, stepping back out into the drizzle. The cloth barely whispers as it reopens. And now you walk lighter. The umbrella above you is no longer just shelter. It's story invention and craft. A bit of dry space you carry with you. You duck beneath the awning of a small stone temple, drawn in, not by shelter, but by the scent of sandalwood and the flicker of a brass lamp. The priest notices you and nods toward an alcove where ancient scrolls rest on low wooden shelves. He pulls one out carefully, unrolling its crisp palm leaf surface with reverence. The script is Sanskrit, and though the words are formal and faded, you can just make out an illustrated figure holding something unmistakable. A canopy held aloft by two devotees, shading a statue of Vishnu. It isn't rain that worries them, it's the blazing sun. In these texts, the chhatra isn't just an object, it's an extension of devotion. Shading the gods from sun or storm was an act of piety, a symbol of vigilance. The more lavish the umbrella, the deeper the devotion, or so the logic went. You run your fingers over the engraving cloth, stretched across ribs tassels hanging from the edge, sacred symbols painted in gold. Some scrolls even detail umbrella storage practices as if these items were precious relics rather than tools. One passage mentions a festival where hundreds of parasols were lined up in rows, each representing a different mantra. The umbrellas became prayers. Historians still argue whether these accounts reflect widespread use or were limited to royal temples. But the imagery is undeniable. Umbrellas were tied to worship as deeply as incense or bells. As you return the scroll, the priest offers you a sliver of sweetened coconut and gestures to a smaller idol in the corner. It too wears a tiny umbrella above its head, made of painted metal no bigger than your palm. You smile. Even gods, it seems, prefer to stay dry. As you wander farther through the city, you reach a broad courtyard surrounded by carved sandstone walls. The sun has broken through the rain clouds now, and the streets steam with heat. In the center of the courtyard, an elephant stands, majestic and absolutely unbothered by the heat. But what catches your eye is what's above him. A massive velvet-lined umbrella, its edge stitched with gold thread and tiny bells, is mounted high on a frame casting a wide circle of shade. The man seated on the elephant's back is clothed in silks and armor, his head adorned with a turban set with gems. He's not just riding, he's reigning. Umbrellas in India weren't just tools or religious symbols, they were political theater. The higher your umbrella, the higher your rank. The more layers, the more authority. Some kings even used triple-tiered umbrellas, each canopy stitched atop the next like a decorative layer cake. You watch a younger noble mount his horse nearby. His umbrella, though lovely, only has one layer. A subtle message, important but not that important. Historians still debate how the umbrella became such a visual hierarchy cue. Some say it originated in Persia and filtered in through Mughal influence. Others argue the concept is entirely Indian, born from a society that always valued symbolic expression. Either way, it worked. In processions, you could scan the umbrellas and know who mattered, no need to read titles or scrolls. You lean back against a wall and wonder how it must have felt to sit beneath one of those gilded domes, feeling a breeze and knowing the sun's glare would never touch you. Not because of luck, but because of power. You find yourself near a Mughal garden now, the air rich with rose petals and freshly watered grass. A woman approaches her stride light but graceful, and behind her walks an attendant, carrying what might be the most beautiful umbrella you've seen yet. It's delicate, the canopy made of sheer muslin dyed in a subtle peacock blue trimmed with feathers so fine they sway with every step. As she sits on a marble bench, the attendant tilts the umbrella just so, casting a crescent of soft shadow across her lap. This isn't utility, this is elegance. During the Mughal period, umbrellas underwent a transformation. While still symbols of rank, they became fashion statements crafted with as much care as jewelry. Persian artisans introduced finer silks, brocade, and dyed embroidery. Handles were inlaid with jade, sandalwood, and sometimes, yes, ivory. You reach out to touch the edge of the umbrella, and the woman laughs gently. She invites you to hold it. It's light, surprisingly so. Balanced, graceful, almost an extension of the hand. You spin it slightly, and the feathers ripple like pond water. Historians still argue whether these parasols were ever used in heavy rain. Most say no. They were made for sunlight flirtation and photographs well paintings. The Mughal elite often posed beneath them in court miniatures shaded by parasols while lounging on cushions or listening to poetry. It's easy to see why. There's something poetic about a feathered umbrella. It says, I have the luxury of unnecessary beauty. You return the parasol and thank her. She offers you a rose from the garden plucked with a smile. You're learning that umbrellas weren't always about weather. Sometimes they were about grace. Your path leads you toward a bustling temple square where musicians are tuning stringed instruments and families light small clay lamps. A festival is underway and the scent of fried sweets floats through the air. As you meander through the crowd, you notice something odd. A man frowns at your umbrella, your modest folded piece of dyed cloth, and gestures with annoyance. He mimes holding it higher, shaking his head. A young woman beside him giggles and mutters something you don't catch. You realize you've committed a minor cultural sin, umbrella etiquette. It turns out it's a complicated business. In many Indian regions, especially during festivals or processions, there are unspoken rules when to open your umbrella, whom to shade, and most importantly, when to lower it in respect. You step aside, letting a group of dancers pass, each shaded by vibrant red umbrellas held high by uniformed attendants. The umbrellas are part of the choreography, twirling slightly, catching light, framing every move. It's mesmerizing. In some states like Kerala, entire temple festivals revolve around umbrella processions. They're exchanged between temples carried on elephants or paraded in silence. The colors have meaning, the materials matter, and you visitor with the casual cloth umbrella clearly missed the memo. Historians still argue whether these festivals originated from royal customs or agricultural rituals. Either way, umbrellas became central figures, stand-ins for divinity devotion and rhythm. You fold your umbrella and carry it low. A few heads nod approvingly. In a world where every gesture can be a message, even an umbrella becomes a language. Heading south, you arrive in a coastal village where the sea wind carries a salt, crisp bite and the trees lean from years of being pushed inland. The temples here are smaller, simpler, but still painted in vivid lime and orange. Outside, dancers prepare for a ritual. Their heads are bare, but beside them a pile of astonishing umbrellas, weights made entirely of coconut fronds woven in spirals and stitched together with choir rope. Each one is a miniature masterpiece. The dancers don't carry the umbrellas, they dance around them. In this tradition, the umbrella stands for divine presence. You watch as the oldest dancer lifts one and holds it aloft, circling the temple. The others follow, feet tapping rhythms into the dust. Later, a craftsman invites you to his home. There's no workshop, just his backyard where coconut palms sway and dogs nap. He shows you how to strip the fronds, soak them in salt water, and weave them tight. It's a tradition passed down orally, no sketches, no blueprints. Just muscle memory and rhythm. Historians still argue whether these southern umbrella rituals were influenced by Dravidian culture or local tribal rites. But they endure generation after generation. He hands you a small model, barely big enough to shade your lunch. You hold it up and laugh. Somehow, even this small, it still feels sacred. Down here, umbrellas aren't for keeping dry. They're for keeping tradition alive. Word count 1 or 57. Awaiting continue. You arrive in Calcutta and everything shifts. The streets are wider, the carriages sleeker, and suddenly the umbrellas are no longer round and feathered, but long, straight, and British. The stiff black kind you've seen in rainy London films, now poking their way through Indian crowds like alien antennae. You follow one man clearly colonial with a pressed coat and measured steps into a tea room. He carefully hangs his umbrella on a brass hook, not a drop of rain on it. You're not sure it's ever even been used. The colonial era brought not just new administration and railways, but new umbrella culture. Imported designs began replacing local models. British umbrellas were machine-made, collapsible, and uniform perfect for marching in time. You step back out into the street and spot an Indian gentleman with a hybrid model British frame, but dyed cloth canopy and hand-carved wooden handle. A beautiful compromise. Historians still argue whether these imports killed local umbrella making or spurred a new wave of fusion design. In Calcutta and Bombay, workshops sprang up offering umbrella repairs, new frames, or fashion-forward handles. You chuckle as a passing couple uses their umbrella not for rain but to hide kisses. Some uses, it seems, are universal. The black umbrella was never beloved here. Respected maybe, but never loved. It lacked the flair, the ritual, the rootedness. Still, in a city where monsoon flooded the streets faster than tea could be poured, having any umbrella was a form of sanity. And so, they multiplied. Even today, tucked in every corner shop lies a rack of umbrellas. Some imported, some handmade, all waiting. You drift toward the edge of the city where the clang of tools and smell of oil signal a different rhythm. This isn't a market or a temple, this is an umbrella workshop. And not one of stitched palms or feathered flair, but of metal rivets and rainproof design. Inside it's dim, but alive with motion. Men and women move between benches lined with brass ribs, steel rods, and spools of waterproof fabric. Sparks fly from a corner where one worker welds a custom frame together. This is where Monsoon meets mechanics. The man in charge greets you with a firm nod and gestures toward a series of half-finished umbrellas hanging like sleepy bats from ceiling hooks. He explains softly, proudly, that their goal is simple build umbrellas that won't turn inside out at the first wind gust. You nod. We've all been there. He places one in your hands. It's heavier than the bamboo model built with local brass, its joints engineered to bend and flex rather than snap. He opens it slowly, the metal joints clicking into place with precise satisfaction. Its quiet strength a weapon against monsoon chaos. Historians still debate when exactly metal-ribbed umbrellas became standard in Indian cities. Some credit British military engineers adapting rain gear for tropical postings. Others argue Indian artisans were already experimenting with metal frames decades before, simply on a smaller scale. The real genius here isn't the material, it's the adaptation. These engineers didn't just copy European models. They changed the slope of the canopy to drain rain faster, widened the arc to protect sari-clad wearers, and created segmented grips better suited to Indian hand sizes. You test a windproof prototype by standing in front of a spinning fan. It holds, barely wobbles, a small triumph. In the back, a girl no older than 12 is testing handles shaped like lotuses and lions. Her design, she grins. Even in an age of imports and mass production, creativity bubbles up. You leave with a brass-ribbed umbrella that feels oddly personal. Strong, yes, but also handmade. It glints in the low sun like a sword sheathed in cloth. It makes you think maybe the umbrella isn't just a shield. Maybe it's an invention that quietly reinvents you with every storm you face. You stroll into a marketplace just as the evening lamps are being lit. The air is thick with cumin incense and steam rising from sizzling dosa pans. Here, umbrellas are no longer ritual tools or engineering marvels. They're everywhere, living. Breathing extensions of city life. Bright red ones shading fruit stalls. Patchwork umbrellas used to signal which vendor sells samosas. Umbrellas printed with movie stars, politicians, cartoon tigers. You duck under one that features a grinning Shah Rukh Khan and wonder if he ever imagined this particular form of fame. In a nearby alley, a boy carries a stack of paper umbrellas painted with vivid floral patterns. They're clearly not built to last, but the colors are mesmerizing neon pink lotuses, metallic gold spirals, and one peculiar one with a chicken holding a guitar. Modern art, perhaps. But it's not just stalls and peddlers. At the edge of the bazaar, a street performer does a whole routine with an umbrella, spinning it on his finger, flipping it inside out, using it to fan himself between jokes. His laughter is contagious. Even the umbrella seems to be having a good time. You wander further and come upon a movie shoot. The actress waits under a turquoise umbrella, its fabric embroidered with sequins that catch the floodlights like stars. Bollywood has made the umbrella a symbol of flirtation, of cinematic longing. Two lovers sharing a canopy in the rain, their hands brushing just once. Historians still debate when the umbrella became more than protection when it started performing. Some suggest it was inevitable. Anything used by both kings and commoners is bound to take on extra meaning. Others argue that cinema redefined everyday objects and the umbrella simply happened to be the most photogenic. As the night deepens, you spot a couple under a striped umbrella whispering. It's tilted just enough to block the world. You look away smiling. In this place, the umbrella is more than shelter. It's an excuse, a curtain, a signal, and if you're lucky, maybe even an invitation. You leave the noisy market behind your steps slower now, the night wrapping around you like a shawl. A winding village path leads you into a quieter place, a courtyard lit by oil lamps where the air smells of turmeric and wet clay. Here under the woven canopy of a neem tree, an elderly woman is seated on a low stool. Before her lies an array of vivid cloths, neatly folded and dyed in hues that seem pulled from memory. Deep saffron, indigo, maroon, pale pistachio. She's hand-painting tiny patterns dot by dot like rainfall falling in perfect rhythm. This is the hidden world of umbrella fabric, the part few ever see. Each pattern, she tells you, has a story. This flower is for joy. That swirl is for protection. The umbrella becomes a silent tapestry, whispering messages only a few still understand. She motions for you to sit beside her. There's a bundle of old ribs and frames nearby, passed down from her father and his mother before him. Each one unique. Some slightly bent, some made from woods no longer cut. Each with fingerprints of decades. You ask how she learned to dye the fabric just so. She shrugs, says, watching mostly, and listening. Then she leans closer. Umbrellas talk if you wait long enough. Historians still argue whether these techniques were ever documented or simply lived. Most agree it's the latter lost arts held in muscle memory vanishing, as plastic replaces craft. She shows you a rare piece, an umbrella once made for a bride. Crimson cloth edges beaded with freshwater pearls. Not for rain, for grace. As she folds a finished umbrella and tucks it into a cloth sleeve, you feel an odd pang of sadness. These objects weren't just made, they were meant, and those meanings are fading. But tonight, under soft lantern light, at least one story is still being painted. The next morning, you visit a museum so sleepy that even the guards are reading newspapers. Inside, it's cool and quiet. Just the soft echo of sandals on stone and the creak of ancient fans overhead. You move toward a corner where a single glass case stands unassuming. Inside are umbrellas, some collapsed, others open halfway like yawning petals. Most are frayed, their colors faded, their joints rusted, but there's dignity in their decline. One umbrella catches your eye, it's square. Another has a handle shaped like a cobra. A third is made from stitched leaves backed with silver foil. A note beside it says it belonged to a 19th century midwife who carried it during every home birth she attended. Tucked behind the display is a yellowed folder of blueprints umbrella designs that were patented, forgotten, never made. One has hinges that allow the umbrella to double as a cane. Another features a slotted frame meant to whistle in high wind. Whimsical, perhaps, but ingenious. Historians still argue whether the umbrella reached its peak innovation in the 1800s or is still evolving today. Some say the golden age has passed. Others point to new smart umbrellas with GPS and solar panels as proof we're just getting started. You flip through the archive of patents. The language is dense, the sketches clumsy. But they're beautiful in their own way, dreams made visible. A quiet attendant tells you that once a year the museum hosts a Monsoon exhibit. They string colorful umbrellas across the ceiling, light incense, and let school children build their own models from paper and twigs. Before leaving, you rest for a moment on a bench beneath one of the suspended displays. It sways gently in the breeze from the ceiling fan above. You sit in silence, letting the shapes hover above you like memories. Even forgotten designs deserve shade. You're invited to a wedding. The village is decked out in garlands, marigolds spilling from doorways, and laughter echoing across the rice paddies. As the procession begins, the groom arrives beneath a wide umbrella crimson with gold tassels carried by his younger brother. It's not just for looks. The clouds are gathering. You fall into the slow rhythm of the music, the shuffle of sandals over the earth, and you notice many of the elders also hold umbrellas, each different, some old, some repaired, some clearly heirlooms. They aren't just shielding themselves, they're honoring the sky. In Indian culture, weddings often fall during monsoon. Rain is auspicious, blessing renewal, fertility, but only if you're ready for it. Umbrellas become both preparation and poetry. A sudden downpour hits mid-ceremony. No panic. Just a gentle flurry of motion as umbrellas open in unison, forming a canopy over the couple and guests. The air smells of damp rose petals and soaked sandalwood. You don't rush for shelter, you simply lift your umbrella and keep dancing. Historians still argue whether this tradition began as practicality or evolved into symbolism. Either way, it's now a rite. You notice a child with a broken umbrella, half-collapsed fabric, flapping like wings. He doesn't mind. He runs through puddles laughing. An older woman offers him hers, without a word. Because here, rain doesn't interrupt, it joins. And umbrellas don't just protect, they welcome the weather. They turn a storm into a setting. You sit alone now in a garden at the edge of a city. It's quiet. A drizzle hangs in the air soft enough to ignore, but steady enough to notice. Your umbrella, the one from that brass workshop, rests above you like an old friend. The handle still warm from your palm, the fabric whispering in the wind. You've walked through centuries, held parasols once raised for kings, seen feather, silk, coconut, and steel all stretched into shade, watched umbrellas dance parade, protect, seduce, protest, and vanish. They've been tools, trophies, and taboos, and yet always shelter. Historians still argue whether India's umbrella journey is unique or just a piece of a global story. But for you sitting here in the hush of dusk, there's no need to debate. The umbrella isn't just an object, it's a space, a place to retreat, a bubble in the storm, a small portable sanctuary. You let your eyes close, rain on cloth, leaves rustling. Somewhere a cow sighs. The umbrella holds steady, and the world just for a moment pauses. Shout Bridget at count 1 of 30. Wind down final 300 words. Let yourself rest now. The sound of rain has softened into something almost musical. Each drop falling on the umbrella's canopy feels like a lullaby from the past, measured, ancient, steady. You don't need to move. Everything important has already been seen. The journey behind you stretches far through sun-baked streets and temple courtyards, through marketplaces loud with life, and courtyards quiet with dye. Every umbrella you've touched has left its mark. A splash of color, a thread of memory. Breathe slowly. Feel the fabric above you. The weightless dome. It doesn't press down, it lifts you up. Let the world fade gently now into the scent of coconut oil, the clink of bamboo, the hush of museum corridors. You've earned this quiet. The umbrella stays open for a little while longer, holding space like a sky of your own. And as the night folds in around you, so does the story. No rush, no sharp endings. Only soft footsteps retreating and the rhythmic, gentle sound of shelter. You're safe. You're dry. You're home.